So viewers, today we have someone who knows economy like the back of his hand. Mr. Mukesh Kumar, Deputy Secretary, Ministry of Tribal Affairs, Government of India. A man from the Indian Economic Service, and we'll be talking to him and trying to get a sense of his perspective on middle class, the various issues that middle class faces in India, the challenges, the opportunities that the policymakers, the government can create for middle class. So thank you, Mr. Kumar, for joining us at Middle Class Hub, India's first platform exclusively for the middle class.
It's my pleasure.
So, Mr. Kumar, that's how we generally start at Middle Class Hub. There's a lot of talk about middle class, not just in India, I would say across the world. And there is also, I would say, universal concern regarding the challenges that the middle class faces. But the irony of the situation is, nobody knows, there is no universal definition, or forget about universal, even a country specific definition of what constitutes middle class. Can you share some light on what do you think? Who is a middle class if I talk about India?
Generally, if we go by the standard definition, there is no standard definition of middle class. But even though we would like to, even if we try to standardize the definition of middle class, generally it is believed that a person having income 10 times more that of poverty line would fall under middle class. But of course, even then, there is no watertight definition of middle class. But generally, it is believed that the person having income of $10 per day to $100 per day may fall in the category of middle class.
So, Mr. Kumar, that's a criteria which often people adhere to when it comes to like income. That's one way to define what middle class is. Are there any particular value set that you see which is very characteristic of particular of the middle class? You can talk about the mindset, the values that are very peculiar, maybe not witnessed in the poorer sections of the society or someone who belong to that wealthy club.
When you see in the global perspective, different countries are at different stages, therefore definition of middle class also differs across the world. And we are talking about middle class in India. If we go by global definition, you would find that some people would say that the number of people in the middle class category percentage would be more than 50%. Somebody would say that it would be about 70%, and some estimates for India is that the middle class population may be constituting around 10 to 15%. It would be, and some would say that it is 5%. It's like it is for number, but it is always debatable what would be the number of middle class, because it would depend on the number of people falling below poverty line. And the poverty line itself in India, it has been a very debatable issue at what constitutes poverty and what is the poverty line. It's really a debatable issue. That is why we cannot conclusively say that this much number is this much number of people fall in the middle class category. But so far as characteristics of middle class family in India is concerned, India is largely it's a low income country. It's a low income country, and very few people constitute middle class in India. And generally, if you see the middle class, if you go by definition, if you go by characteristics, you would see that the people living in urban areas, people who are aspiring to be more educated, aspiring to get jobs. Earlier it was like middle class people only aspire to get employment in government sector. But after 1991 economic reform, with the opening of new opportunities in private sector, many people started getting jobs in uh, multinational corporations which started its business in India. And of course, in Indian big, large companies in India also like Infosys, Tata, Consultancy Services, maybe Reliance and other companies that provided a very handsome salaries to the employee. So middle class families are those who are aspiring to get better education for their children, for themselves, better skill, better employment opportunities, better income. So
That's true.
broadly,
Yeah, please carry on. You're saying something.
of course, therefore, and of course, there are other people who want to get into middle class through government sector jobs. This just after independence and before 1991, most of the people who wanted to be in the middle class. So it was very easy to get into the government sector job and suddenly shift from lower income group to middle income group or middle class.
Uh, that's I would say a very correct assessment of the middle class in India. Now, I would now return to middle class as a political entity. Now, before coming to that, before getting your views on the subject, uh, I have just one submission that, except if you take the exception of Dr. Manmohan Singh and Mahatma Gandhi, most of the national leaders, they come either from the poorer sections or from the very rich section, I mean, the wealthy section. The one party that comes remotely close to, say, middle class, the ideology with which the party was formed, that was Aam Aadmi Party led by Mr. Kejriwal. Now, but even because of the political benefits to say or to win elections, if I put it very directly, somewhat even that constituency has again been left. So, is it right to say that there is nothing like a political entity of middle class? And is that the reason why governments after governments, they most of the time, they ignore the interests and welfare of middle class? I'm not saying government has not done, successive governments have done a lot of things, but still there is a perception that middle class is often left. Politicians, they don't care much about middle class. Is it because they don't constitute a sizable vote bank?
I would beg to disagree from this statement. Rather, I would say that the governments throughout government, this, especially after 1991 onwards, or even if you go back, middle class, whatever, if you see the budgets of the government of India, every time there would be talk about what has been done in the budget about middle class. So middle class has always been in the focus of the government and the policies and programs that whatever have been implemented. Middle class have been there in the priority of the government. And there are reasons behind that also. I won't say that the middle class does not constitute any political entity. Government is well aware, all governments have been aware of this fact that the middle class are the leading class so far as if you exclude upper income group and if you take lower income group and middle income group together, so middle class constitute the leading class within that. They are the leaders uh, whom other income group people actually follow uh, in different ways. And other thing is the most important thing is that uh, middle class have voice. They are educated class. Uh, they can put forward their demand before the government. they are, this is the class which put forward the concern of the government also, concern of the people also. So I won't say that the government completely ignore middle class. The government is well aware of the fact that middle class is the educated class. They understand the issues, socioeconomic issues, problems of the country very well, and in many ways they form the agenda of the governance agenda also. They form governance agenda. uh, they put forward the various socioeconomic issues, problems of the country, and that is why this is the class, this is the most vocal class. And the government would, the government, whichever government have been the whichever government have ruled the country, I hope that this the middle class has always been in the focus of the government. I think middle class is such class which cannot be ignored, because see, the very growth prospect of the country uh, depends on middle class. The political future, the social future, the cultural future of the country depends on middle class.
That's true. No doubt middle class has a very important role to play. But, there is one person named Mr. Bejon Mishra. Fondly we call him Bejon, a well-known name as a consumer rights activist. While, speaking to Middle Class Hub, he said, in any governments across the world, the democratic setup, we always keep hearing this thing: because of economic policies, the rich are getting richer, the poor getting poorer. But in this statement, you will observe that middle class nowhere it figures. So somewhere now, why I brought this thing, because right now you might be aware the entire national capital and national capital region, Delhi NCR, it's been blocked from all the entry points, all the border areas. Farmers have concerns, they are protesting. And we support farmers, whatever the genuine concerns. My only problem with this whole issue, how I look at it, is for the last couple of months, our middle class we have been inundated with calls from the depositors of Punjab and Maharashtra Cooperative Bank. PMC Bank, you must be aware, it's hit by scam. There is a moratorium on withdrawals. So, people call me and they say that it's our money. We are not asking government for any favor, any aid, any bailout for that matter. And we are senior citizens, we are middle class people, mostly senior citizens. I would say 70 to 80% depositors are senior citizens. Now, for the last year and a half, they are struggling. They don't have money and there is nobody to listen. Even to carry out a protest march, they start, many people told me, the depositors, that the local administration, they would kind of, not direct threatening way, but maybe indirectly will advise them not to go ahead with the protest and all. So my point is, if you say that middle class has always, there is a voice of middle class, but is the voice being heard? Yeah, I mean, I would like you to talk in the context of what's happening with this Punjab and Maharashtra Cooperative Bank and many other such issues where middle class voices have often been crushed and it doesn't reach those in the corridors of power.
Again, just to clarify about the central position of middle class in the governance, I would like to mention that, see, in a few days, budget will be presented. So whenever budget is presented, the first thing people look for is what will be the tax slabs, what will be the income tax rate. And you would appreciate that these things, basically the direct income tax or even GST or white goods, these are directly related to consumption pattern or income of the middle class. So in no way middle class can be by any government of the group, it's any government, state or central. Middle class is always in the focus. because this is the class which is also your source of revenue, also government source of revenue. Most of the income tax, direct income tax, they collect from them. But as far as you're concerned about various issues that mass middle class is concerned regarding banking sector, even the shadow banking failure a few days back, Divan Housing and Finance Limited and all, and even housing sector crisis, even real estate problem. Uh, since you'll be saying that many people who have invested in real estate sector or who have bought their houses, they are not able to get their house even after making all payments to the real estate. So these are in fact a separate economic problem. Uh, and these issues are dealt with, I would say that these issues are dealt with separately by the government and very delicately also. Few days back, a bank which was a private sector bank called, if I'm correctly remembering, it is um, Lakshmi Bank somewhere. It was taken over by a
Lakshmi
Singapore
Vilas
based.
Bank, I think you were mentioning. Lakshmi Vilas Bank, right?
It was taken over by HSBC Bank. So government is very much concerned about the banking sector because banking sector is lifeblood of the economy. And since most of the savings are basically low income group people, they have very less financial savings. Whereas middle class is the class which generally does financial saving either in banking sector or in the capital market. So definitely, if anything happens to financial sector or banking sector, this is the segment middle class people who would feel the hit. But it is not that the government is not concerned about that. Government is very much concerned because any failure of financial sector, any failure of banking sector, or any would directly affect the economy. So ignoring middle class by ignoring these things, these failure of banks or failure or any misappropriation capital market is taken very seriously by any government of the day. And that is why I would say that it is not that this does not mean that middle class is being ignored. Uh, Nobody can, means no government can do that. It is because you see, banking sector failure, financial sector failure, or if the banking sector is not doing well or financial sector is not doing very well, also it would also reflect in the economy as well. So no government can would be pleased by ignoring this sector. This is the core sector, and I don't think that uh, any government can do this.
Let's focus on middle class now. We have talked about the policymakers, the governments, the priorities, what they have for middle class. You have rightly very, in a candid way, you have stated your position. Now, you see, many people say that somebody once remarked that, middle class, there is a problem why middle class, very few people become really wealthy. I don't know what's the definition of being really wealthy, but yeah, that's how somebody was, defining the whole, this mindset of middle class. Why they can't break into that super rich club throughout their life? Some have definitely successfully done. Why most of them can't do? And they put it on this a problem with a mindset, a lifestyle, like. And I would like you to talk about that. Do you also agree to that? That the middle class, the problem with middle class is they tend to, they want to first look rich before they actually get rich. I mean, there is this tendency of, their lifestyle changes happen at a rate much faster than their economic growth, their income growth. So is that also a reason why middle class is always in a debt cycle, or always kind of struggling to make ends meet? Or as I started by saying, always having complaints that not much is done for them? If you would like to focus on that.
Again, to say that middle class, this terminology is a very wide range. It's a huge range, and it's a huge one. It's lower middle class, upper middle class, then middle class, and you find lower middle class always struggling to get means better education, better health facilities, and you might have heard about sleeping poverty, wherein many lower middle class family, in order to get better health facilities or to meet the health expenditure, they fall below poverty line. There are people who are just above poverty line. They fall below poverty line after due to rising health expenditure. But you have raised two questions. One is that why middle class family move into the super rich class, and you said about their consumption pattern, because see, you are saying that if their consumption pattern is such that they are continuously in debt, and therefore they cannot come out of their debt. They are, in fact, you are indicating that they are always in debt trap because of their consumption behavior or consumption pattern. Uh, any consumer who takes loans, if it's I take loan or you take loan. So when we take loan, in the future our income will increase. When we take housing loan, suppose for 20 years or 30 years, we believe that in the years to come, our income will increase because we are in a developing economy, a fast one of the fastest growing economy of the world. So when the economy is growing, people will be getting better job opportunities, better income. So I won't say that the decision take loan and consumption loan, and then fulfill uh, his or her desire is a wrong decision. These decisions are taken in a very conscious manner, taking into account future income of the family or future income of the person. But the problem occurs when you have financial crisis like 2008 meltdown, and now you see this pandemic scenario.
That's true.
So these are the disturbances. Because of that, I think people's or middle class families, like whatever their planning can go haywire. But still, I don't believe that their consumption pattern in this way is any problem. Rather, I would say that this because of this consumption pattern, the economy has gets a boost also. When you consume more, the growth takes place, and when you consume more, production will be more, economic growth will be more, and future income growth will be there, and employment opportunities will also increase. This is one aspect of it, but I hope you are also concerned about uh, the disregard for environmental issues, the disregard
Yes.
towards poor people, disregard to the social issues as well. But definitely, that comes as a part of what kind of education we have got. So, if we are taught only to increase our income, only to increase our consumption, and we have not been taught to behave responsibly in a society, to because the middle class is the class which guides the future course of the society, the future course of the income of the economy, polity, as you said. So we need to learn to behave in a socially responsible manner, politically responsible manner, culturally responsible manner. So what I want to say that there are two aspects of it. One is economic aspect. To consume, it's not always bad because your consumption is driving economy forward and creating employment opportunities for the lower income group who also want to come to the middle class category. One aspect is this, but of course, since middle income group are leaders in terms of like uh, you constitute the biggest is you constitute the largest group in the society, and people below you, that is the people who are striving to be in the middle class, uh, they for them you are role model. So you need to behave in a very responsible manner. I would say that the time has come that we need to means our consumption pattern should be in consonance with the environment. So our consumption should be uh, in a very eco-sustainable manner, ecologically sustainable manner, as well as our consumption pattern or our social behavior. It should it should be very ethical as well.
That's a very interesting point you make, because this ethical approach to environment, I would say, labor relations, monetary policy, the way you live your life, these are always very important, not just for middle class, for any citizen of this country, rather any citizen across the world, because these are very serious issues and have serious implications for future. Now, I'll again get back to the government part. Uh, what the immediate steps, according to you, which you think are imperative that the government of the day must take to help middle class realize their aspirations? Some immediate steps that the government must take to further, because in a way, when one class improves, of course, it has a multiplier effect. Middle class is one you mentioned, they drive the economy, they are consumers, they drive the market. So, and they are the direct taxpayers also. So what, according to you, if I may ask, you think are the steps the government must take, the government of India must take for middle class?
The world is changing at a very fast pace. So there is no guarantee that those who are in the middle class will move upward only. They can move even fall downward as well. And the reason that maybe because of the changing world, with the changing socioeconomic scenario, we may be in a condition to adapt ourselves so fastly. So what I am concerned about is that our education system, higher education system, basically higher education system or the school education system, that needs to be that needs to change very fast with the change in socio-economic environment of the world. So you need next decade, suppose after 10 years down the line, you would 10 days after means you see we are in 2020, in 2030 you would require a entirely different skill sets to for the people to get employed in a to get employed. So, so that is why I am saying that our education system needs to change very fastly. Means it should change. It should change in a much faster manner, much swifter manner, so that those youths who would be aspiring to get better job opportunities, who would be aspiring to be in the higher middle class category, they adapt themselves very well in the socio-economic environment. So one
Education.
thing is education, focus of the government on education, health, infrastructure, housing, because see, other aspect of increasing strength of middle class family is also urbanization. So in the urban areas, you would require better infrastructure facilities. You would require better housing facilities. So that would always be the areas uh, where the government need to do something. Education, health, infrastructure, housing.
This is one question I always ask everyone, whoever speaks to middle class. Mr. Kumar, do you consider yourself to be a part of India's middle class?
See, I never sincerely thought about it when you contacted me to for an interaction on middle class. I always believe that we are all in one class. That is, we are all Indian, and we should always move ahead together. It's classified middle class, and you see, in a democratic country like ours, it is the responsibility of the government to provide basic amenities to all the people, whether they are in middle class or lower income group, right? Like middle class family, they would be sending their children to private schools where they would be paying some fee. But at the same time, it is government's responsibility that those who cannot afford education in private sector are given the best education in the government schools. So if you see in terms of that, like free goods that are made available by the government for the poor people, education, free health, free education, free basic amenity, free housing facility. If somehow we could improve the quality of these things, I don't think there would be much difference between middle class and the people who are falling below poverty.
That's true.
Because on the face it would appear that you have higher income, but actually those who are below poverty line would also be getting better quality education, better health facilities, better infrastructure, which are like common goods. If common goods are in ample quantity available for poor people, their living standard would be as good as the middle class family. In fact, I would say that middle class family would be worse off, because people living in Delhi, they know that it is getting means uh, fresh air is scarce,
Yeah, yeah,
but
it's a luxury. That's true.
fresh air in villages, in rural areas, if they have all these common goods available, you would compare our life with their life. They would be much better than us. But of course, that needs to be improved. And if we can improve that, I think this classification, middle class and those who are below poverty line, would be breached.
So it comes down to what you are saying is the quality of the services being provided or being arranged for a different class of the society. So the government must focus on whatever it is providing in terms of education, healthcare. The quality must be improved, taken at par, try and take it at par with the private institutions which are providing such facilities. Because see, that is one problem which we at middle class have always face in terms of questions and concerns, that A middle class family, they earn their livelihood either into a government sector or a private sector, or they have their own setup. They pay taxes, but we pay taxes for what? We pay taxes for to have better access to healthcare facilities, education, security. Now, on all these three parameters, I would say a typical Indian middle class family who stays in a gated colony, they, despite paying taxes to the government, they arrange private security in the housing societies, private housing societies. They ideally, in an ideal situation, they would not prefer sending children to government schools, as you rightly mentioned, because of the quality of education. And also, if given a choice, they would not want to go to a government hospital. I'm not just talking about this pandemic era, even prior COVID-19 times. So that is one thing, when we have discussions with middle class, those who consider themselves middle class, that is what I would say, these small issues accumulate into a kind of, I would say, anger, for want of a better word, against the policymakers, that they are the ones who are always ignored, because today you have because governments are being formed on the, because see, let's be very clear, we can't stay away from that issue, because governments are formed on the issue of, say, farmers, on the issue of big ticket scams. So these are the fact, but somewhere down the line, the middle class feels left out. Do you think there is also a concern regarding that most of the middle class people, they don't go out and vote, and that also gives the political parties a sense that they can take them for a ride?
One misconception, I would like to say it's a misconception that whenever you talk to any middle class family, they would talk that they are paying taxes, therefore, means they want these kind of means basic facilities. You are talking about paying taxes and getting in return uh, various kinds of facilities for the government. It's true, but it is not true also. Like tax is not like when you pay tax, it's not like quid pro quo. It is not fee. It is not fee for any service. Taxes are imposed for various reasons, and one of the reasons is also why progressive tax is imposed is to redistribution of income. Means the richer section of society or middle class, middle income society, they have some responsibility towards the country as well, towards the poor people as well. So you are not paying taxes only for yourself. You are paying taxes for the whole country, for the development of whole country, for the development of poor people as well. So tax is not the relationship that is established through tax is not just quid pro quo. It is your responsibility, and you have to contribute also. Of course, there is a declining trend among middle class people in going out to vote, and politically they would love to talk about politics in the drawing room in an interview, but when it comes to going outside, expressing their political affiliation and expressing concern, political concern, or going out to vote. Of course, there is a declining trend, which is also not very healthy sign. Definitely not healthy sign. We belong to Bihar. We are from Patna. We saw that during COVID period, the percentage of voting in Patna was very low, whereas percentage of voting in rural areas in other parts of the state was very high. Since most of the middle class family are concentrated in Patna, also not most, but at least there are a good number of people living in Patna who belong to middle class. So They are good at talking about politics. They are good at discussing politics in the drawing room. But when it comes to expressing their political affiliation or means uh, going out to vote for the vote uh, that means their how does not get reflected in the apps. And other thing that I would like to highlight is that middle class family, since they are very educated, it is expected from them that their voting pattern would be entirely different from other people who are not so educated. Like, we generally say that we do not cast our vote, we vote our caste, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
right.
has middle class drifted away from that concept? Have they become responsible? Have they have they come off the age where they they vote on the basis of the credential of the candidates, the ability of the candidate? So that I think in many ways we talk about middle class, but in many ways the education, their means higher education, their thought, it is not getting reflected into reality. So that is a big issue. That is a big problem. And since they guide other people in the society, if somehow middle class can change their this behavioral pattern, other would also follow suit, and there would be a great change.
You have given me, a couple of headlines, and I really like the way you put it just now, because that's this only I'll end that the higher education comparatively compared to other classes, of course, middle classes education standards are quite high. People have access to education, and but still that education is not reflected in the behavior when it comes to say voting, for example. So not just voting, even in other areas like concern for environment, like even for concern for other classes, I would say, rather than being selfish only about one particular class or their own class. So that's
Like to mention,
not there.
where I live, I just like to mention that where I live during this pandemic period, so all these people who are living in gated community have means there are some common facilities like parks, roads. They love to close that facilities and they don't want other people to come and use those common goods, common services. And they are so selfish that they want that these parks or these facilities are for them only. And that is why I mentioned that tax is not for that only. This is not taxation is not a quick correlation with the taxpayer and the government. Taxation is towards your responsibility, your contribution towards the country. So
So
in
what
that sense, if there is any change, there needs to be great change in the behavior of individuals.
So what you are saying is that when it comes to taxes, there can't be a quid pro quo. That's what you're saying, right? When it comes to like just because you are paying taxes or you keep mentioning about taxes, that is not to say that there would be a quid pro quo from the government that you expect something in return. It is for the larger good, maybe for creating assets and but
There, see, there are many things which are the cost of which uh, you are not incurring. Like when you drive a car, you're polluting environment. The government is nothing getting nothing out of it, but you're creating problem for others also. So you should who will take care of that?
thank you, Mr. Mukesh Kumar. I mean, it's been a pleasure speaking to you, and we got a diverse range of views from you on all the issues related about middle class. And I'm very hopeful that all this interview would be a great guiding light for India's rising middle class. And you have addressed the concerns raised by me during the course of the interview. Also have some, I would say, very honest, hard words and practical suggestions for the middle class. So taken together, all this will definitely go a long way in improving the lot of not just the middle class, but all the classes of the society. And as you said, why should there be any class? There should be only one class. I know it's a kind of an utopian idea in a country like us, but still, why not? Let's hope for it that one day we achieve, we reach a time when there won't be any classes. We all will be categorized only as Indians and nothing else. No middle class, no super rich, no poor, but just one Indian class. That's what it is all about, and it should be all about. So thank you so much once again, Mr. Kumar. It was a pleasure talking to you, and have a nice day.